And now it's better for white to go for b4 so that black can't push this pawn further, but instead he goes for rook at a goes to d1, allowing black to push b4, attacking this knight. And here white can go for bishop to g5, which attacks this queen. And let's suppose if black defends with bishop to e7, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, and now comes a3, attacking this pawn. And let's suppose if takes, instead of recapturing, here white can firstly go for c4, attacking this knight. But here black can go for the move, which is knight to f4, giving up this knight. And let's suppose if queen takes f4, now comes e5, attacking this knight and this queen. And after this queen moves, simply takes, and now comes bishop to c6. And you can see this game will continue like this. Okay, but in the actual game, after the move knight takes d5, and after that, here Kasparov goes for bishop to g3, attacking this queen. And there are multiple ways to handle this, like bishop to d6 or simply pushing this pawn to e5 so that he can block this route. But instead here black goes for queen to a5, attacking this knight. And now bishop to b4 might be the best option for black, which creates pressure over this knight. But instead he decides to capture on c3 by knight takes c3. And guys, now you might be shocked that in this position, white can actually sacrifice his bishop by bishop takes a6. But why? This is because suppose after queen takes a6, now white can give a check from b4 square. And guys, there are two ways for black to tackle this situation. The first one is rook to d6. Let's suppose if this happens, now white will firstly go for c4. And guys, that's a killer move, This is because clearly you can see white is preparing for knight to b5, which pins this rook, and secondly, most importantly, this move also cuts the diagonal of this queen that's targeting the rook on f1. I mean, whenever this rook on d1 moves, it leaves the first rank, the rook on f1 might be in danger. So to stop this, the move c4 is a very useful move. Okay, so let's suppose if rook to d8, knight to b5, and knight to e8, and now you can see that in the next move white will get back his piece. Okay, so let's see the another move. Let's suppose after this move queen to b4 check, the another option which black can consider is king to e8, and after that simply knight to b5, threatening knight to c7, and queen to c8 is recommended for black. But let's suppose if black decides to capture this rook on d1, uh, and firstly white will recapture this rook, and if queen to c6, and now some of you might be like, bro, black successfully defended his queen and there are no more threats. But guys, that's just the start of a series of attacks, because now white will firstly give a check from d6 square by knight to d6 check, and after king to f8, knight to f5, a discover check by this queen, king to g8, because obviously you can't go there due to this mate. So after king to g8, knight to e7 check, and yeah, you can see in the next move black will lose his queen. Okay, so in the actual game, after the move bishop to a8, here Kasparov obviously missed the move bishop takes a6, and instead he goes for knight to b3, attacking this, and now it's recommended to just slide this queen to a4, but instead he goes for rook to b8, pinning this knight. But why this move is a mistake? This is because now white can play rook to d2, and let's suppose if queen goes back to c7, now white can give a check from a3 square, king to e8, bishop takes a6, and you can see this is completely winning for white. Okay, so in the actual game, after the move rook to b8, here Kasparov missed that and he goes for And now the move f4 is recommended for white so that he can push this pawn further, trying to attack this pawn structure. And let's suppose if black goes for rook to b2, taking control over this second rank, but simply f5. If e takes f5, knight takes f5, but simply bishop takes c6. Okay, now white can attack this bishop and this knight, but black can simply defend this by rook to b6, and in the next move white will continue with the knight to d4, and you can see this position will be slightly better for white. But in the actual game, after the move rook to b8, here Kasparov goes for king to g1. And now the move knight to h3 might be the better option for white so that he can give a check from g5 square. But instead here Kasparov goes for rook to c1, attacking this knight. And after that, king to h2 by Kasparov, getting out from this check. And now knight to f4 attacking this bishop, and everything was fine till here, but in this position here black blunders by capturing this pawn on f3, and that's a blunder because after g takes f3, now take a close look at this king. You can see it's in a stalemate condition, and white is now threatening knight to g to mate. So that's why instead of capturing this pawn on f3, it's better for black not to capture this pawn, because after capturing this pawn back, you can see it opens the g2 square for this knight, through which he can checkmate black. So it's better to go for any another move, like suppose rook to b3, which also stops the move which also stops the move knight to d3. And now you can see there is no more further checks, so white is forced to exchange the pieces, and after rook takes d5, e takes f3, g takes f3, rook takes f3, and now you can see this position is equal for both. Okay, so in the actual game, after this move, bishop takes f3, and after that here Kasparov finds the best move, bishop to e2. This is because after black captures on e2, simply knight to g2 checkmate. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.